A good afternoon to you all. This is the Ambassador. With me, your Ambassador, Jennifer Macau. And today we start checking by the finance bill protest in Kenya. As the Kenya once again on Wednesday took to the streets to riot against the finance bill, the bill was rejected by Kenyans just from the day it was tabled in the National Assembly by urging that the bill was punitive and traumatic due to his high taxation, but as long as it lasts, the National Assembly still passed it. Let's get the report.
Kenyans have come out in thousands, if not in hundreds, to reject the 2024 finance bill, claiming that it is punitive and unfavorable to them despite them battling with the high taxation cost and making life unbearable for them. But the anti-riot police, who are set and fully prepared to stop anyone causing violence in the city, will not hesitate to put their weapons into action just to bring things to order, also exercising their right and slogan of maintaining law and order. This is what triggered the peaceful picketers who had the intention of marching to the National Assembly just to air out their voices to their representatives with a warning: reject the finance bill. But even after all the pressure from the members of the public, the National Assembly has officially passed the finance bill with a majority vote.
The results of the division on second reading of the Finance Bill 2024 is as follows. Ayes 204, nays 115, abstentions nil. So the ayes have it.
The bill will then be submitted to the Senate for further discussions, and if the Senate agrees with the National Assembly's decision, it will be submitted to the President for ascension. But if the Senate rejects the bill, it will be returned to the National Assembly for further amendments before submission. The Central Business District of Nairobi was a no-go zone to anyone since Kenyans came out in large numbers to reject the finance bill. Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
Kenya's ongoing anti-finance bill 2024 protests have been marked by a significant shift in the dynamics of political activism, with a new generation of young Kenyans, popularly known as Gen Z, taking the center stage. This movement, fueled by frustration over the proposed tax hikes and a desire for change, ended up uniting Kenyans beyond ethnicity and political affiliations. The protest began on social media platforms, particularly TikTok, where users expressed their discontent with the Finance Bill 2024. The hashtag quote-unquote reject Finance Bill 2024 quickly gained traction, mobilizing young people across the country to take the action. Let's get the full report.
The streets of Nairobi and other major cities in Kenya have in the last few days been the scene of significant political unrest, driven largely by an unexpected force, the Gen Z. This demographic, typically defined as those born in the late 1990s to the early 2010s, has emerged as a powerful voice in the protest against the proposed Finance Bill 2024. The bill, which includes several contentious measures, has mobilized a wide cross-section of the society, but it is the involvement of Gen Z that has added a unique and dynamic element to the movement.
You trying to add tax on stuff like sanitary towels, it doesn't make sense. It's inhumane. Pads should be free. Condoms are free. Sex is optional, menstruation is not. So this thing should be scrapped off. It's not, do not amend it. Reject the whole thing.
The Finance Bill 2024 proposes several tax hikes and economic policies aimed at addressing the national budget deficit and public debt. Key provisions include increased VAT on essential goods, higher income taxes, and new levies on digital services. Critics argue that these measures disproportionately impact the middle and lower income segments of the population, exacerbating economic hardships in a country already grappling with high unemployment rates and the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Education has become expensive. Sisi tulikuwa tunasoma na 28,000 per year. Right now, watu wanasoma na 28,000 per month. What is that? Ruto umetoa support ya government ya education. Our parents are now starting to retire as Gen Z.
If they pass it, we will take other avenues of making that bill go away, we can go for the judiciary. Tuko hapa mbele. We will seek other alternatives of making this financial bill, which is very cruel to us, go away. We have alternatives. Hata wenye wanapitisha hapo tunaona. Tuko na ile powers of the citizens, tutawarecall. Tusipowarecall 2027 aoni.
For many young Kenyans, the bill represents not just an economic burden, but also a threat to their future prospects. The unemployment rate among Kenyan youths is alarmingly high, and many Gen Z individuals feel that the government's policies have consistently failed to address their needs and aspirations. The Finance Bill 2024 has become a focal point for broader grievances about economic inequality and lack of opportunity.
It is time you understand that we are of age. Na sisi ndio tuna familia. Mimi nimetupa mabibi wawili kwa sababu ya kukosa diapers. Yes. Bibi anakuambia nataka diaper 5 kila siku. Sitaosha, nimemnunulia napi, hataki kuvua mavi.
Yes.
This is Generation Z.
Yes.
Badala ya kupeleka diapers juu, tafadhali punguza, vijana waweze kukua na familia.
The youth, you must come out strong. We are not going to relent. This is just the beginning of the war. We are not paid by anybody. This is not a political-led protest. The people of Kenya have come out and they are telling you that if you think that it is only the strong who can come out and cry, then wait and see the strength of the weak in the society.
We no want finance bill. Ruto, Zakayo, ulitudanganya, tumechoka. Na sisi usisahau ni sisi tuko next generation. Hizo kura hautapata hata kidogo.
The involvement of Gen Z has significantly shaped the anti-finance bill protests. Their innovative approaches to protest include flash mobs, virtual rallies, and creative placards and banners that highlight their frustrations and demands in poignant and often humorous ways. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.
Investigations and calling for calm have been opened by Chad officials after an explosion and fire at the military ammunition depot in the capital, N'Djamena. That happened late Tuesday, killing 9 with more than 40 injured at a military ammunition depot in the capital overnight, causing panic in the Central African state. The Chadian President Mahamat Déby Itno visited the site of the explosion while authorities called on residents to stay out of the area, which was taken over by security forces. Here is the full report.
Déby has ordered the mobilization of firefighters and military to assure the safety of civilians after deepening sounds of explosions from a military ammunition depot that scared residents in the Guji neighborhood of N'Djamena. Déby expressed condolences to bereaved families, wished the injured a quick recovery, and called for calm among civilians in the capital city. Déby ordered investigation into the causes of the blast. Mahamat Chafadin Maguin, Chad's public security minister, spoke on Tuesday after the meeting. He said that the security situation in Chad had remained tense ever since Déby has inaugurated as president on May 23rd to end 3 years of military transition and a return to constitutional order. Magui states that Chad is planning to deploy its military to hotspots to preserve peace, national unity, and territorial integrity as Déby promised during his inauguration. Chad has become the first country for eliminating neglected tropical diseases globally, according to World Health Organization this year. This milestone marks the halfway point towards the global goal of 100 countries by 2030, set by the 2021 to 2030 roadmap for neglected tropical diseases by the World Health Organization.
Zambia is facing its worst agricultural season in over 40 years, with the crops being destroyed, livestock perishing, and millions of people in need of humanitarian assistance. Among the most impacted are women and girls who are experiencing increased risks of malnutrition, gender-based violence, and child early marriage. Here is more report.
In response to the crisis, the United Nations Population Fund is working on the ground in drought-affected provinces to provide reproductive health and gender-based violence prevention. Mobile clinics are reaching remote communities, offering medical treatment for people living with HIV and treating pregnant women who are malnourished.
Today we are providing ART, we are providing antenatal services, They're also providing children's clinic services, also family planning, in slight of part of a bit of OPD.
They don't have food. As a result, teenagers, they end up in they become vulnerable. So they engage themselves in sexual activities. So when we talk about HIV, even HIV rate, it's quite high in adolescents because they engage themselves to these fishermen because they want help, they are vulnerable.
United Nations Population Fund is also supporting Safe Motherhood Action Group volunteers to provide information on safe motherhood. The need for immediate flexible funding is critical to meet the needs of most of the vulnerable women and girls in Zambia. United Nations Population Fund is appealing for $5.4 million to support the work and ensure that women and girls receive the assistance they need during this devastation.
A targeted carrier by the Yemen's Houthi rebels sank in the Red Sea on Wednesday, claiming the lives of crew members. The sinking of the Tutor marked the second ship lost in the rebels' recent campaign, highlighting on the heightened tensions in a crucial global shipping route amidst the ongoing chaos. Let's get the full report.
The attack comes despite a month-long US-led campaign in the region that has seen the Navy face its most intense maritime fighting since World War II, with near-daily attacks targeting commercial vessels and warship. The Liberian-flagged, Greek-owned and operated Tutor succumbed to the attack despite ongoing efforts by the United States and its allies in the region to secure maritime transit. The sinking of the Tutor comes amidst a sustained US-led military campaign in the region, which has seen unparalleled levels of maritime confrontations since World War II. Nearly daily attacks have targeted both commercial vessels and warships, posing significant challenges to international efforts aimed at stabilizing the volatile region. The use of a boat loaded with explosives raised the specter of the attack in 2000 on the USS Cole, a suicide assault by Al-Qaeda when the warship was at port in the Yemen city of Aden, killing 17 people on board.
And that international news brings us to our first break. Next, we talk about Russia President Vladimir Putin, who recently concluded his Asian tour with a Vietnam visit. We'll view in depth more about it. And then NATO, who warned China of sanctions. We will see why. While Trump criticized Biden of the global performance, we'll tell you more about it, and we'll also bring you the latest developments on the Boeing 737 MAX case and the uprisings on the Senegal's President Diomaye Faye and Emmanuel Macron's meeting, the Paris meeting with Africa heads of states, topics you can't afford to miss. We have this and more line for you shortly after the break. Stay tuned with us.
Hi guys, welcome to the Youth Hub, the show that gets your groove on.
Mahali nikakula chapati ya brown haina sukari. Alafu nikatoka hapo nasikia nimechoka hadi mgongo, siwezi panda stairs. Kumbe nilikuwa nimeanza kuzeeka.
Kumbe umeanza kula
They can do follow up. Lakini unapata hii alifanya in secret, imeshatokea. So even the boy anaogopa kujitokeza.
But what about today? What about the modern fathers? Modern fathers ni yeye mwenye anaweza amua I'm going to babysit, nilikuwa wamesema.
Mimi hata sijui kama nilifungwa diaper to be honest. Mimi nilikuwa mtu wa napi.
Ulikuwa napi enzi za
napi unafungwa na
kafil.
Trust me, watu wengi.
Pesa iko kwa wingi, unga ni pesa. Ukiona tu unga ya ngano, unajua ushakuwa milionea.
Kweli, ukikanda unga unakuwa na do. Utakosaje kuwa na do?
Baby stuff are expensive.
Diapers kwanza. Wow.
It's a bit really expensive, my friends. If you're not ready for motherhood things are kind of nice.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our sins. He carried our sins.
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고,
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins.
무덤에 들어가셨다가,
and he was put into the tomb.
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
about how Jesus died for our sins, the purpose of Jesus being
우리
crucified.
죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our
그래서
sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Ambassador GBS Global, and we are glad to have you join us today. In a critical moment for the global geopolitics, Russian President Vladimir Putin concluded his visit to Vietnam, marking the final stop of his highly watched Asian tour. Amid this heightened international scrutiny, Putin's visit follows a controversial treaty with North Korea and aims to reinforce long-standing ties with Vietnam. As diplomatic tensions summer up in the West over the Russian strategic maneuvers, all eyes were on Hanoi, where discussions were set to take shape towards the regional dynamics and economic partnerships in the Asian Pacific region. Here is a full report.
Putin's visit to Vietnam follows a significant stop in Pyongyang, where he signed a mutual defense agreement with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. This agreement allowed for military cooperation and mutual assistance in the event of an attack, raising concerns particularly in Western countries about potential Russian support for North Korea's controversial missile and nuclear programs. Upon landing at Hanoi's airport, Putin was welcomed by Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Tran Hong Ha, among other party diplomats, highlighting the warm diplomatic reception despite geopolitical tensions. The United States, a key trading partner of Vietnam, has expressed apprehension over Russia's engagement with North Korea, citing worries about international law violations and the potential destabilization of the region. The visit of Vietnam, amidst ongoing global sanctions against Russia for its military actions in Ukraine, underscores Moscow's strategy to strengthen alliances in Asia. This marks Putin's fifth visit to Vietnam during his tenure as president, underscoring the long-standing relationship between Moscow and Hanoi. Economic ties, energy cooperation, and military collaboration have been key pillars of the bilateral relationship, despite shifts in global geopolitics.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg warned that China will face economic consequences if it continues to support Russia's war in Ukraine. General Stoltenberg alleged that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea was sending an enormous amount of ammunition to Russia during a ceremony in which he was awarded the Louis St. Laurent for the outstanding service to the peace security in Ottawa on Wednesday. Stoltenberg pointed out that China was providing crucial technologies such as microelectronics, which are essential for Russia to build missiles and weapons used against Ukraine. He suggested that the economic cost could be imposed on China if it does not change its behavior, citing the existing sanctions already in place. He also highlighted that North Korea is providing artillery shells to Russia in exchange for advanced technology for its missile and the nuclear programs, further solidifying the alliance between the three nations. China has repeatedly denied sending arms to Russia, but both countries have also accused Western nations of attempting to interfere in their legitimate trade. Here is a report.
Last year, Russia imported 90% of its microelectronics from China, used to produce missiles, tanks, and aircraft. China is also working to provide Russia with improved satellite capability and imagery. All of this enables Moscow to inflict more death and destruction on Ukraine. Publicly, President Xi has tried to create the impression that he is taking a backseat in the conflict in Ukraine, to avoid sanctions and to keep trade flowing. But the reality is that China is fueling the largest armed conflict in Europe since World War II. And at the same time, it wants to maintain good relations with the West. Well, Beijing cannot have it both ways. At some point, and unless China changes course, allies need to impose a cost. North Korea has delivered over 1 million rounds of artillery shells, and Iran has delivered thousands of deadly Shahed drones. We are deeply concerned that in exchange, Pyongyang and Tehran could receive Russian technology and supplies to help them advance their missile and nuclear programs. The growing alignment between Russia and its authoritarian friends in Asia makes it even more important that we work closely with our friends in the Indo-Pacific. We need to be aware of that authoritarian powers are aligning more and more, and they are supporting each other in a way we haven't seen before.
It has it both ways. Yeah. So what is the impact?
Just the fact that he went to North Korea, that he signed and agreed this pact of mutual defense, demonstrates how they support and help each other. We see that also, of course, in the war in Ukraine. North Korea has provided an enormous amount of ammunition. We see how they're loading on containers with ammunition on trains. So, of course, in return, Russia's giving something to North Korea. And we are very deeply concerned about the possibility of also Russia now providing support for their nuclear and missile programs. Yeah.
It has it both ways. Yeah. So what is the impact on NATO?
China is the main supporter of the Russian war efforts in Ukraine, propping up their war economy and providing all the technology they need to build the most advanced weapons. Some allies have imposed some sanctions, United States. Other allies are of course much more hesitant, but this is an issue which has to be addressed and discussed.
Our friends throughout Canada hear this, and if you do have the interest to help us.
Secretary General of NATO, Mr. Jens Stoltenberg.
Former President Donald Trump launched a scathing attack on United States President Joe Biden, claiming that Biden's recent international appearances had been marked by confusion and perplexity. Trump stated that Biden's lack of clarity and direction was humiliating the United States in the world stage. Trump made these comments during the recent interview where he expressed his disappointment with Biden's performance. Biden supporters pushed back against these claims, citing his extensive experience in the public service and the ability to effectively navigate complex international issues. They argued that Trump's criticism was baseless and motivated by political gain. Here is the report.
You saw what happened this weekend. It's turning the United States into a total joke all over the world. First, he wandered off the G7 in Europe, the stage. He looked like he didn't know where the hell he was, but he didn't know where he was. He's blaming it now on AI. He's saying he doesn't know what AI is, but that's okay. Now they're saying the media is manipulating. Oh, he's saying the media is manipulating now. On that one, I have to stick up for the media, I have to tell you. He said the media is manipulating the pictures of him constantly not knowing where the hell he is. They're doing just the opposite. They're making him look better. At the G7 in Europe, and he had to be rescued by other world leaders. They had to pull him back. Then he bizarrely put his face on the Pope's forehead. What was that all about? That was weird. Did you see the Pope? The Pope is like, what's happening? The Pope didn't really know what was happening. He said, this is strange. Then he froze during the celebration on the White House lawn. Then St. Obama had to grab him off the stage as though he were a child. I have to tell you, Obama could have handled that differently. He could have done it a little bit softer. He could have done it like, let's go, let's go.
Well, that was Trump for you. Moving on, Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun faced intensive questioning in a Senate hearing where he admitted the company had retaliated against whistleblowers who raised safety concerns. The hearing was prompted by recent incidents, including a door blowout on the Boeing 737 MAX flight, as senators expressed the disappointment that the Boeing had not made more significant changes to improve safety since 2018 and 2019 crashes that killed 346 people. Boeing denied allegations of retaliation against the whistleblowers, but supposed it was reviewing the claims through the ongoing controversy, leading to a significant decline in the Boeing stock price. Let's get the report.
So just help me understand that. I mean, do you get paid for transparency? Is that one of the metrics for your income?
I think the board counts on me for transparency.
Really? Because you're under investigation for falsifying 787 inspection records. The Boeing's under criminal investigation for the Alaska Airlines flight. You were investigated by DOJ for criminal conspiracy to defraud the FAA. This is all in your tenure. This doesn't sound like a lot of transparency to me. I think the truth is, Mr. Calhoun, you're not focused on safety, you're not focused on quality, you're not focused on transparency. All of this is in the record, but I think actually you're focused on exactly what you were hired to do, which is that you're cutting corners, you are eliminating safety procedures, you are sticking it to your employees, you are cutting back jobs because you're trying to squeeze every piece of profit you can out of this country, this company. You're strip mining it. You're strip mining Boeing. Why haven't you resigned?
Senator, I'm sticking this through. I'm proud of having taken the job. I'm proud of our safety record, and I am very proud of our Boeing people.
You're proud of this safety record?
I am proud of every action we have taken.
Every action you've taken?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow. There's some news for you.
Boeing is making some leadership changes, but they look more like management musical chairs, moving the same people to different roles within the company, people who may have been responsible and should be held accountable. True. So help you God. Thank you.
I would like to apologize on behalf of all of our Boeing associates.
Global leaders, health organizations, and pharmaceutical firms pledged $1.2 billion to boost vaccine production in Africa, making it an essential moment in the continent's quest for the health sovereignty. Announced on Thursday during the Global Forum for Vaccine Sovereignty and the Innovation in Paris, the funding aimed to reduce dependency on increase of local manufacturing capabilities amid its ongoing health crisis intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic. Here is the report.
Speaking at the forum, French President Emmanuel Macron underscored the importance of the African Vaccine Manufacturing Accelerator in creating a self-sustained vaccine market in Africa. He noted that currently Africa produces only 2% of the vaccines it uses, and the goal set is that the production increases to 60% by the year 2040. The resurgence of diseases like cholera across Africa has highlighted the critical need for local vaccine production facilities. Speaking passionately on the issue, Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye highlighted the devastating impact of COVID-19 on routine vaccination programs, leading to millions of children missing out on essential vaccines crucial for their health. At the forum, the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, a key organizer of the event, announced plans to mobilize $9 billion for global vaccine programs. A significant portion of this funding aims to support Africa's manufacturing capacity, with up to $1 billion reserved for the next decade to enhance local production capabilities. The Global Forum for Vaccine Sovereignty and Innovation has thus set an example for international collaboration aimed at strengthening Africa's healthcare infrastructure and ensuring equitable access to life-saving vaccines across the continent.
France, in collaboration with the African Union, AU, and the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, aims to raise over $1 billion to speed up the manufacturing of vaccines in Africa. The event brought together African heads of state, health ministers from various regions, and the director of the World Health Organization, WHO, and the leaders from the pharmaceutical industry. The event was co-hosted by the Thursday in Paris by the President of the French Republic, His Excellency Emmanuel Macron, and the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, together with the Chair of the African Union, His Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani. Here is the full report.
France, in collaboration with the African Union, AU, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, aims to raise over $1 billion to speed up the manufacturing of vaccines in Africa. The event brought together African heads of state, health ministers from various regions, the director of the World Health Organization, and leaders from the pharmaceutical industry. During the forum, the African Vaccine Manufacturing Accelerator, officially launched to help African countries achieve vaccine independence by producing 60% of their required doses by 2040. This initiative was announced during the World Health Organization Immunization Week in April to address the disparities in access to drugs and vaccine highlighted by the COVID pandemic.
And that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been a pleasure having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the Ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. Have been your Ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the Ambassador on Monday, same time, same place at 1 p.m. And for today, we'll leave you at that. And may you all have the most beautiful afternoon and a superb weekend ahead. Stay safe.
Everywhere, GBS.